Hello and welcome to the Cancer Education Series brought to you by Mercy One and Above and Beyond Cancer. This series is made possible thanks to a grant from the Iowa Cancer Consortium. Filling in for Chris, my name is Kendall Bainosh and I'm a development coordinator at Mercy One Des Moines Foundation. It's my pleasure to introduce the founder of Above and Beyond Cancer, Dr. Richard Deming, and he will introduce our program for tonight. Dr. Deming?
Great. Thank you, Kendall. And this is a real treat for me tonight, and I know it's going to be a treat for all of you. One of my favorite people in the whole world, and I am serious about that, Justin, is our guest tonight, Justin Anderson. And Justin is a cancer survivor, first and foremost. And like every cancer survivor, there's a whole lot more to his life and his existence than being a cancer survivor. But, you know, that's the reason that Justin and I got to know each other. And Justin and I are going to have a conversation tonight. And besides being a cancer survivor and a good soul and a creative person, he's also a musician and a singer-songwriter. And so we're going to coax him into not only talking about cancer survivorship and what you can learn by going to Cancer University, but we're also going to have him perform for us tonight. Hey, Justin, how are you doing?
Doing wonderful. How are you, Doc?
Good. And Justin, are you up in like the area around Clear Lake right now? Are you in Ventura?
Yeah, I'm in Ventura, Iowa, just west of Clear Lake, Mason City area, and it is negative 150 degrees here.
And I actually know that Ventura is on Clear Lake, right? The lake itself. So most of us, when we think of Clear Lake, we think of the day the music died and the surf ballroom. And Justin has lots of connections to the surf ballroom. And I am proud to say that the very first time I was ever in the surf ballroom was with Justin, and we might even get into who we saw while we were at the surf ballroom. But Justin, I thought we'd start by maybe just having you tell a bit of your story, which started over 10 years ago.
Okay. Yeah. So, well, it's been a heck of a long ride. Lots of different sides to the story. But basically, I was having some strange headaches that led to me ultimately being diagnosed with brain cancer back in 2010. My first symptom actually was a headache every time I sang. And so, yeah, it all started back then. I had surgery and radiation treatments and chemotherapy. And then we just thought it was gone. Went for years with good news from follow-up scans and good doctor appointment reports. And
Justin, let's go back to 2010 before we go too fast, because your story is so amazing in many ways. First of all, you were diagnosed with brain cancer before the Affordable Care Act.
Yes.
And there's going to be part of this story is we're going to be Justin in the floor of the House of Representatives at the state capitol talking about Medicaid expansion and the value of the Affordable Care Act. But back then, Justin was professional. He had a band. What was your band back in 2010? What was the name of your band?
Well, I was in two bands. One was Desert Highway Drifters. We were a bit of a country rock and roll type of thing. And then Comrade Generator, which was just straight up rock and roll.
Right. And neither of them were playing like sold out stadiums at the time. It was a little bit smaller gigs. And so you also had another job at the time that was kind of bringing in the money. And
yes. Yep. I worked as a bartender on the side. I did that for years.
Yeah, and he had a little bitty insurance program. And so when he had headaches, he went into the emergency room and they did a CAT scan. And lo and behold, they found a tumor the size of a racquetball in his right temporal lobe. And the CAT scan used up his entire annual allotment for his health care.
I think it was my lifetime allotment.
So that was again back before the Affordable Care Act, when people could have these little health insurance plans that didn't really do much. So Justin had the brain tumor taken out up in Mason City by a good neurosurgeon, but lo and behold, they had no more insurance coverage. So even though he could have received some radiation and chemo up there because he had no insurance, and the way things worked back in 2010, he went to the University of Iowa, and he had the good fortune of being able to stay at the Hope Lodge. The American Cancer Society had relatively recently built a place where individuals who had to leave their own home and come to Iowa City to get care could stay and get the care at the University of Iowa. So Justin, as he said, got 6 weeks of radiation and some oral chemotherapy. How was it? What was it like staying at the Hope Lodge?
It was like home. It really was. You're surrounded by people that are going through the same thing you are, so you have people that you can relate to, and it was a very comfortable, just kind, caring, accommodating environment for me to be in during what was pretty scary time.
Did you have your guitar with you?
Of course, yes, yeah.
Yep. So I can only imagine you were the favorite patient there, because music, we'll talk about the value of music, not only to you, but to everyone around you that gets to listen to your music. And how are the radiation treatments? You got probably about 30 radiation treatments.
Yeah, something like that. Honestly, I didn't have much of a problem with them. I thought they were pretty. I thought they were pretty easy, and maybe I was a little tired than normal. Of course, I was 26 years old, but I thought it was easier than it was supposed to be.
So you got through it. You were 26 and invincible, a little brain cancer, a little surgery, radiation. And then let's recreate how you and I first met. So Justin, being the very caring, giving person he is, he had spent 6 weeks at the Hope Lodge. And Hope Lodge is basically paid for through philanthropy. So once a year, they do a gala to help raise money for the Hope Lodge. And they had asked Justin, hey, Justin, would you be willing to give a little talk about your experience at the Hope Lodge in front of all of these doctors and folks that are there dancing and eating and raising money for the Hope Lodge? So Justin, I was there as just participating, helping to raise money. I brought a busload of people over from Des Moines to help with the Hope Lodge fundraising. And Justin got up on stage and told his story of his brain cancer and staying at the Hope Lodge and how much it meant to him. And then he ended his speech. Go ahead, you pick it up. You pick up the story.
Well, I'd been dating my girlfriend for about 3 years, and we were at this, fancy dinner that we'd probably never have gone to anyway. So I thought it would be the perfect opportunity to propose to my girlfriend. And so she said yes there at the Hope Lodge, and it was pretty cool.
So in front of God and everyone, right up on stage, as he finishes his speech, he proposes to Alicia in the audience, and she said yes.
That's good.
And so I was just part of the audience watching Justin and listening to his speech. I had happened to, through the fundraising process, my bid won me a big, huge color TV. And I'm thinking, I don't even watch TV, and I don't even think this will fit in my Honda Accord to drive back to Des Moines. I've got an idea. So I went up to Justin. I said, Justin, I really enjoyed your talk. Can I be the first one to give you and your wife a wedding present? And I handed over the big screen TV, and it became Justin's problem to get the big screen TV home. So that's how Justin and I first met. And that was in the late fall of 2010. Well, come December, I decided to take a group of cancer survivors in April of 2011 to Mount Everest Base Camp. And as I'm assembling a group of cancer survivors, I gave Justin a call and I said, hey, Justin, this is Dr. Deming. Would you be interested in going with a group of cancer survivors to climb to Mount Everest Base Camp? So when I called him, like anybody, if you don't recognize the phone number, you don't answer. So it actually went to Justin's voicemail. And so, Justin, you pick up the story from there.
Yeah, so I had this weird number call me, and I, immediately listened to the voicemail. Um, and it's Dr. Deming. I have no idea how he got my number. He left this voicemail asking if I wanted to go to Mount Everest Base Camp. So immediately I'm freaking out, and like I felt like I just won the lottery. I mean, I was not a climber by any means, and started calling everybody I know and saying, "Hey, remember that doctor that gave me the TV? Now he wants to take me to Everest Base Camp." So yeah, the rest is history, I guess. It happened so fast, from there, and then we're on a flight to Kathmandu.
And so think back at that time. So you had been through, as we said, the surgery, the 6 weeks of radiation with daily Temodar, and then you'd also completed 6 months, I think, of additional oral chemotherapy. Did you have any trepidation about, were you strong enough to do this trip so soon after your cancer?
Yeah, actually, if I remember right, I just finished my last round of chemotherapy like a month before the trip. So yeah, I was nervous my brain was going to explode in the altitude or something. Yeah, I was scared. I was terrified. Wasn't sure that it was something I could do. I'm not an athlete. I'm not, normally in shape. I usually play guitar and
Yeah, you're more of a lover, not a fighter sort of guy, right?
exact. Definitely not a fighter. Yeah.
So to tell a little bit about, why do you think you were willing to take on the challenge of climbing a mountain?
I think just the curiosity of diving into something like that I was never on my radar was really appealing to me. Just a completely new experience. After a year and a half of messing around with cancer, just that opportunity to go out and just try something completely off your radar. It was kind of a wild idea, and that's what ultimately led to me making the decision to go, I think.
And maybe describe a little bit about your experience in Nepal.
Yeah, so I mean, Nepal is like the most beautiful, colorful, wild place ever. My senses were just like totally blown away by everything about Nepal, whether it was the food, the people, or the mountains. It's just total sensory overload. And, as far as the climb itself, it was tough. It was really, really tough. But in retrospect, I would say that, a lot of that was up here was tough. It was, I always say it's 99% mental and 1% physical. Obviously you want to make sure you're in pretty decent shape, I suppose, but it wasn't all about being in great shape. It was about your attitude and the people around you encouraging you up, whether that be through hugs or suck it up or overall, it was an amazing experience. Changed my life.
So you talk about changing your life. Maybe talk a bit about both. How did your cancer journey up through that point change your life? How were you a different person after going through brain surgery, radiation, chemo, 6 months of chemo? And then would you say that the climb transformed your life?
Well, a couple of words come to mind. Grateful. So, just getting through that cancer journey, getting through that mountain climb, just super grateful for the experience, even grateful for the cancer experience. As mentioned earlier, how we met, that wouldn't have happened if I wouldn't have got this little booger in my brain. So grateful, resilient. Like, it taught me, both experiences again, taught me how much more resilient than we give ourselves credit for. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. If you're not given the opportunity to face a challenge, you never know what you're capable of.
Exactly. I mean, it was both were, as heck, but you really don't know until you go through it what your experience is going to be like. So it gave me a lot of hope for the future, maybe too much hope sometimes. But yeah, it gave me a lot of hope and confidence, maybe too much confidence sometimes. But again, it was just an incredible experience that changed everything about my life.
Um, One little thing I would just want to bring to everyone's attention, because it is a profound part of the story. So Justin, again, had his cancer before the Affordable Care Act. And if anybody remember back then, you couldn't get insurance if you had a pre-existing illness. And there's no bigger pre-existing illness than cancer. So all of a sudden, Justin is unemployed, no insurance, and no ability to get insurance because he's got this cancer diagnosis. So the only alternative that kind of put things together financially was for Justin to go on Social Security disability, to say, I'm totally disabled, and then you get Medicare, but you can't be employed and make more than $10,000 a year. Or they say, well, no, you're not disabled. We're going to kick you off disability and take away your health insurance. So the only way to play the game is that Justin, even though he had completed treatment and was getting back to really, really full, the only way he could have health insurance is to be disabled and only make $10,000 a year. And then talk about how your life changed once the Affordable Care Act went into existence.
Right. So one of the biggest things one of the biggest things on my radar now that I've had cancer is I have to have a scan every few months for the rest of my life now. This is incurable. It is very important that I get a scan regularly for the rest of my life to make sure my brain cancer is not growing. So one of the biggest things on my radar was that, and how do we pay for that? I can't afford to have an MRI, even once a year. So insurance is a very, very big deal. Once that was passed, I was able to go back to work full time, have the other part that people don't realize, I think, that was a part of the Affordable Care Act, is it allowed for insurance companies not to even offer, the worst health insurance plans. You have to have a decent health insurance plan. So that was key to my story, and super grateful that now I'm able to work for a company that offers amazing health insurance. And
yeah, so once he was able to go back to work, you went back to school, you got educated, you used your creativity, you're now doing marketing for a manufacturer. And I think some people think, oh gosh, wouldn't it be nice if I could just sit at home and somebody just paid everything and I just did nothing? And yet realize, oh my God, how rich is our life to be able to, to engage my mind and my whole self in serving others and in being gainfully employed and creative. So that's got to have been a huge change for you in your life.
Yep, absolutely. I can live my life now much more fully.
Yeah. So Justin, let's jump forward. So you were cancer free up until, living your life with probably, and I don't want to speak for you, but philosophically, was there a time, between 2010 and 2018 where you kind of didn't every second of every day think about your brain tumor and thought that it was past tense?
Yeah, it actually eventually, for a while, for years, I thought about it every single day, but then days became into weeks and some months. It was not on my radar for it to come back. Even though I remember reading about this type of cancer from the beginning, like this is incurable brain cancer, this will likely come back, I put that aside and just lived my life. So yeah, well, eventually it was gone. It was out of my life. I mean, whether it was or not.
And then maybe talk about the day you found out your tumor had come back.
Yeah, so I'm going for I was down to a once every 2 years scan. So at the last scan before, doctor had said everything looked great, see you in 2 years. So I come in January of 2019 thinking this will be fine. I remember actually a couple weeks before almost canceling the scan because it's like, what's the point? I'm fine. Just the stress of the scan is enough to, but
Scanxiety.
yeah, the anxiety of it, exactly. But, I was like, let's just go get it over with. And it was not in my radar at all for the doctor to walk into the room like he did and tell me that there's been some changes. He told me that not only had it grown considerably since the last scan, but it was now inoperable from his standpoint, and that I would have to go to a special hospital that could operate on this type of area of the tumor. Yeah, that was a really crappy day. That hit me upside the head pretty hard. Really knocked me down.
Mm-hmm. So how do you cope with that? How did you cope with that? What were some of the go-to? How do you just keep from screaming and?
Well, like Dr. Deming would say, you just put one foot in front of the other and just keep going, taking one more step. So you do those kinds of things, whether you realize it or not. Sometimes I'm 10 steps ahead of where I was, and then it hits me. Oh, I'm 10 steps ahead of where I was, 10 steps ago. It's hard to be aware of, taking one step at a time always. But otherwise, getting lost in things. So as we mentioned earlier, music is something that I've always enjoyed just getting lost in, just forgetting about it, just taking your mind completely away from it. I think if I'm playing the guitar, like it literally doesn't have the capacity to enter my space. Sometimes, I don't know. So yeah, putting one step in front of the other. I know that sounds easier said than done.
Yeah. And there's also other sentient beings in your house that.
Yes.
You want to talk? I'm aware of at least 2 sentient beings that live in your house. You want to talk about your housemates?
So we've got my beautiful wife, Alicia, that we talked about earlier. And then we've got my wonderful wiener dog of 13 years old. I think that's like 1,000 in dog years. His name is Cujo, and getting lost with Cujo a little bit. That walks with Cujo out in nature, that always helps. That always helps take your mind off cancer, I think.
Yeah, and a lot of people find that one way to find happiness is to do something for somebody else, and that can be your wife, it can be your wiener dog, it can be how that the world, the universe doesn't revolve around me, and the more you have other sentient beings in your life, that can help not just distract, but get you engaged in doing something.
It really does. And I can look at my own individual situation in my little corner of the world, but when I think of all the people are going throughout the world, even whether it's people going through brain cancer or other types of cancer or who knows what, just having compassion for them and thinking about them, taking your mind off of me, that helps. You have to really train yourself to do these things. I think it's easier said than done when you're in the moment and you're scared as hell. but it's possible.
So cancer came back in January 2019, I think. Did I get the year right? And
Yes.
then you you bring together all the best knowledge, get the best team you possibly can, and you headed up to Mayo.
Yep.
And what was it like going through that second brain surgery?
Well, so I don't remember if I've told you this, Doc. So this may come as a surprise, but the morning of the brain surgery, I told my doctor, my surgeon, he came in to give me the IV in the arm and put me to sleep, and I said, "Listen, I'm really nervous about this. Please take it easy." And I think he may have taken it a little bit more easier than he may have originally. I don't know.
So he was kind of a young hotshot sort of surgeon, right?
I think so. I mean, I was very impressed by him, but I was a little nervous. You don't want people digging around your brain too much, I suppose.
Uh-huh.
But no, so we went through the surgery. It was 14 hours long. My first surgery was only 45 minutes long. So we beat my first surgery record by a long time.
And wasn't it, correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't he kind of talk to you about maybe doing it while you were awake?
Yes. Yeah. I asked him about, because there's a video somewhere on YouTube about a guy who did brain surgery awake. And so I asked him about this, and he said, yeah, you can even bring your guitar if you want. He said, I don't think this area affects the guitar playing. He's like, but we can have some fun. So,
but then you decided not to do that, right?
Yeah, so in the room, I'm like, I'm going to do this awake. I just knew it. And I walk out of the appointment and my whole family is like, there's no way you could do that. Maybe they know me more than me. I don't know.
So do you have memories of waking up from that surgery and what you thought? And, oh my gosh, do I still have a head? Can I move?
I remember just kind of waking up to people poking and prodding at me and asking if I can feel this or that. And, a couple hours turned into a day, turns into weeks. And, before I know it, I'm back to work. And, I had started off just walking around the house. And then one day I walked to the mailbox and then again, back to work. And it's crazy how you can go through something like that and then just if you just keep moving, you can keep moving.
And then Justin, you were offered participation in a clinical trial.
Yes, I was.
So tell us a little bit, what's it like when somebody says, hey, we got this big experiment and we need another guinea pig. And would you be willing to take this medicine that it's either the real medicine or it's not the real medicine? And we don't know if it's going to work or not work. So what's the process like when you're offered participation in a clinical trial?
Well, there's a lot of unknowns. I ask probably an annoying amount of questions to my doctors. I'm really fascinated by what's going on. They're fascinated. So I ask them bazillion questions. And with the clinical trial, they don't quite know all the answers to the questions yet. I remember asking my pharmacist when I picked up the drugs, what will this interact with or what should I avoid taking? And she's like, well, we don't really know. It's a clinical trial. Just, again, more unknowns. That's kind of what this whole story has been, is just diving headfirst into unknown things that you wouldn't normally do. And you wind up 10 steps ahead.
So when your cancer came back in January 19 and you're going to have surgery, did you think you were going to die that year? Did you think you were going to die on the table?
I've never thought that I would die on the table. For some reason, I'm very confident about surgery. But a big part of me has wondered since it comes back, or my impression has been now that it's come back, it's really serious. Whether it is or not, that's kind of what's going on in my head. I've had friends. I had a friend that just passed away just recently who I stayed with at the Hope Lodge. Same type of tumor on the same side of the head. So that's kind of I mean, since being re-diagnosed or since the recurrence or whatever, that's kind of what's been on my head is things get worse from here. It's hard to snap out of that for sure.
So I think it's fair to say you're living with incurable cancer. Emphasis on living. And does your philosophy of life, is it different now than after your surgery 10 years ago? Is that something you think about, or is it every day is pretty much the same and you just do what you need to do and take another step? Or do you have a different philosophical output now than you did 10 years ago?
It's just evolved more maybe. You know, some days I'm really mad about this and there is no philosophy, there's anger. You know, I'm just shouting at God or the universe or whatever you want to call it. And then other days I'm at peace kind of with what's going on and fascinated by the beauty in all of it.
Mm-hmm.
It really just depends on a lot of different circumstances. That's one thing I've learned too, is that this isn't all black and white. There's no, you take this medicine and you'll be cured. There's so many layers to every story. And that's something that I've learned through all of this, I guess.
Yeah, for sure. And couple of things. So we're going to get into some music. Let's talk a little bit about creativity or, artistic expression. When did you realize you were an artist, a musician? How old were you when you really identified with being a musician?
So I was 7 when I got my first guitar. When I was growing up, my dad was always playing music in bands and stuff. So, you just kind of think you see that and you think it may be in you, and grew up and played in a band, and it just kind of evolved throughout the years, I guess.
And then what about the actual writing of music?
I didn't start really writing music until I was in my 20s, early 20s, probably too many drinks and that kind of thing. But, just circumstances in life that seem to bring out kind of that creative side, I guess you could say.
Mm-hmm.
Or it was breaking up with an old girlfriend or something like that, or, singing about, the troubles of a first world rocker / bartender. I don't know. That's kind of what brought it out initially.
But certainly some difficulties add emotional depth to one's life and maybe serve as food for creativity or food for, expressing emotions.
Absolutely. Yep. Absolutely.
So maybe I'll ask you, so your most famous song in my mind, because I've was with you as you were creating this, and I've heard it so many times, is a song that you wrote. We sometimes call it your cheesy cancer song. You call it that, but it's really kind of poignant, and it is a song that clearly is overtly about your first diagnosis with cancer. And so why don't you pick up the guitar and play it for us?
All right. So, yeah. You hear that okay? So, when I wrote this song, I remember I was driving back home from like Wisconsin or something. And, I was just starting to go through this cancer mess, and I was about to get married to Alicia. And so this kind of came out. It's really cheesy. That's why I call it my cheesy cancer song, but oh well. You ready? When the doctor looked me in the eyes and he told me what it was, knew right then that my life had changed. I'd had to fight for what it's worth. got down on my knees and I asked God to lend a hand. Since I'm in good with the man upstairs, it always helps me to say a prayer. Before I go anywhere, I gotta make amends. Got this girl to marry and we already made the plan. Don't wanna see the look in Dad's eyes if they tell him that it's the end. Mama, you ain't gotta cry. Don't you know your only boy here's gonna fight? If I go, I'm gonna go down swinging. When I think about all the ones that I love, I take a stand and I make up my mind. If I'm gonna live to be 100 and something, gotta change, gotta make things right. So raise up a glass and drink up the wine. I see a celebrations inside. And the battle scars, they can't hold us back. They're just the proof we're gonna win this. Before I go anywhere, I gotta make amends. Got this girl to marry, we already made the plan. Don't wanna see the look in Dad's eyes if they tell him that it's the end. Mama, you ain't gotta cry. Don't you know your only boy is gonna fight? If I go, I'm gonna go down swinging. If I go, I'm gonna go down swinging. I hope that sounds good on the Zoom call.
That was great, Justin. That was great. You know, I think of a couple of other songs that you do, and again, it's sort of how the depth of emotion can come out in songs. And there's two songs I'm thinking of. One is like a capturing sort of this lighthearted, fun thing, and that's your rock and roll pants song. But then there's another song that I love that you do that really taps into pain and suffering, and it was originally a song by Nine Inch Nails, but the version that I loved was Johnny Cash on his last album, shortly before his death, did this haunting rendition of Hurt. And so are you up for either one of those?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay.
Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Can you still see me?
We can see you.
I remember the first time I saw this music video, I bawled. I was like 18. I hurt myself today to see if I still feel. I focus on the pain, the only thing that's real. The needle tears a hole, the old familiar stain. Try to kill it all away, but I remember everything. What have I become? My sweetest friend. Everyone I know goes away in I will make you hurt. I wear this crown of thorns on my liar's chair, full of broken thoughts I cannot bear. Beneath the stain of time, feelings disappear. You are someone else. I still what have I become? My sweetest friend. Everyone I know goes away in the end, and you could have it all. My empire of dirt, I will let you down. I will make you hurt.
Wow, beautiful. That's such a haunting song. Beautiful. So, Justin, I have had the honor of hearing you sing and singing with you in on I don't know how many different continents, but I also got to see you performing live in New York City with Bob Marley's band. And then I got to see you live in the Target Center in Minneapolis, singing on stage with Willie Nelson in front of a sold-out crowd at the Target Center. So what's it like to be on stage in New York City with the Wailers and to be in a huge stadium singing with Willie Nelson?
Well, I tell you what, that stadium thing was something else. Just the feeling of walking on and the entire crowd is screaming. It's just magical. Like my first show there when I was a kid, the Target Center, you know, of course you're like, someday I want to be up there. And of course it happened. I had to get a brain tumor and eventually, you know, but I'm grateful.
Yeah, you know, I hate to say this, but I don't think you would have been on stage with Willie Nelson if it hadn't been for the brain tumor.
No, that a lot of things. If it hadn't, yeah, a lot of amazing experiences that I've had would not have happened because of the brain tumor. So, as I'm mad at it, it gave me a seizure earlier today, so I was a little upset.
Oh gosh.
You know, a lot of times I think back, and I am so grateful for all that's happened because of it, I suppose you could say.
Yeah. Do you ever think about, I mean, there's some people, famous creative people that had seizures, and some people theorize, is there something about seizures that somehow stimulate creativity? Have you ever thought there's any connection with your brain tumor to your creativity?
I don't know. Maybe a lot of musicians can attest to this, but and this is kind of paraphrasing a Bob Marley quote, who died of brain cancer. But when the music hits you, you know, whether you're playing it or listening to it, there's no pain. It's amazing. It is such a magical feeling. It's like a trance or something. And I've always wondered if maybe something wacky's going on up there. Yeah, Bob Marley said, what song was it? One good thing about music, when it hits, you feel no pain. Hit me with music, hit me with music. Love that song. Trench Town.
So we're going to save the last song to go out on. So we've got about 5 to 10 minutes. And I want to get back just a little bit more philosophical. And I asked you this before, and you don't have to answer it again, but, thinking back on your life before cancer and your life after cancer, what are some of the ways you're different, and where do you see yourself going? How does your cancer experience up to now influence what you want to do the rest of this year, in the next year? How do you see the future in light of what you're going through?
Well, so to answer your last question, I just try to live one day at a time. My wife and I try to plan. We're celebrating our 10-year anniversary, so we're gonna work on that one. Things like that. Sometimes I start thinking about too far ahead, and it frankly it can be a little depressing. But I can plan for tomorrow. I have found the exercise of planning my funeral was odd and oddly therapeutic. So that's been kind of an evolving process, and funny and fun. But honestly, I just see my future going one day at a time, taking it all in, being mad when I need to be mad, but not more than 10 minutes per day to be mad, I think was some wise words by a doctor of mine in the past. He said, you get 10 minutes a day to be mad, but no more. So that's kind of where I see it now. Before cancer, there was really no philosophical part of me. I was early 20s, cocky in a rock band, drinking too much, having way too much fun. And now my wiener dog is like about to make an appearance. I'm sorry.
I'm excited.
Yeah. Cujo? Oh boy. Say hello to Cujo. Come here. Now my days are filled with this guy and my wife, and just planning our next walk and just taking every day in stride.
So I want you to take us out upbeat, and I kind of had in mind one of your own songs that I always love, the Rock and Roll Pants. But if you have something else you'd rather take us out on, a song that you've written and upbeat, but take us out.
All right. See if I can remember. This is one my old band and I used to play. We wrote this. It was 10:30 last Saturday night with that beat up Ford. We been looking for a fight. When the policeman came a knocking at my door and said, I ain't your man, he ain't here no more. Woo! Sunday morning, it was right about 10. I was sitting at the church with the preacher man. He said, son, I understand you out dancing every night. I said, please forgive me, Father. I think you must be right, yeah. Please excuse me, mister. I'm just living, I'm just learning. I ain't lying. And my crazy little sister, she will tell you it's the truth, and I'm just trying. That's about all I remember of that one.
All right. Justin, it's a great day to be alive. I love you, man. You have given so many people so much joy. Continue to seek joy and continue to spread joy.
Thank you so much for the opportunity to Zoom with you. I love you too. And thank you for all you do for all of us going through this. And we love you.
Thank you. Thank you, Justin. Kendall, are you still with us?
I am.
So, Kendall,
that was great.
We're going to turn it over to you to close it down for the night.
Perfect.
Thanks, Kendall.
Thank you, Justin and Dr. Deming, and thank you all for tuning in to this week's Cancer Education Series. Be sure to join us next week for another great session. You can find the recording of this session as well as all of our sessions online at mercyone.org/cancer-education-series and on the Above and Beyond Cancer YouTube channel. Have a great night, everyone, and thank you.